Hi, I'm Nancy Lucas, Conscious Discipline Certified Instructor and the Safe and Calm Mommy Mentor. So tonight, I wanted to share with you two questions you can ask your child that will help them resolve conflict and also grow inside. We have a lot of conversation about, I think I'm going to back this up, a lot of conversation about external rewards and internal rewards, or external motivation and internal motivation. So when something happens with a kid and we're trying to resolve the conflict and we force the matter to happen, the child complies from an external force, right? Or an external monitor. Well, what happens when that external authority isn't around? Will the kid have what it takes internally to come to the same responsible, empathetic decision on their own, right? That's what we're doing. We're training them up in these few years when they're young and malleable. And these are the two questions that all of my conscious discipline certified instructor peers know. We ask it all the time. If you're a teacher in a classroom, nail these two questions because it just solves a lot of arguments. Most of the time you're like, well, this and that, and you're having to cajole the child into obeying you or following you or doing what you're told. And these two questions, you don't even have to have skin in the game. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of us take sides and we feel really personally offended when the kid doesn't do this or doesn't do that. Like we're wearing so much skin in the game ourselves. Well, these two questions take it to a neutral place, right? I remember my first, I'm going to sidebar here, my first conscious discipline training. I sat next to the sweetest teacher. She was from Montana and she had a very cute voice. And I think she was maybe an elementary but an early childhood teacher nonetheless. And she obviously was much further down the path with conscious discipline than I was. And she was like, "Oh no, we don't see children as needing punishment. There's no bad kids. They just need a skill." And I was like, that was so foreign from where I came because you did something, you need to be punished. Like, that's how I grew up. And so it was really in her sweet voice. And she was like, "Oh no, we just look and what skill is the child missing?" And I thought, oh, wow, that's so far from where I'm at. Now, today, I can do that. And if you're just starting your journey with conscious discipline or haven't even heard of conscious discipline before, it's a love-based program. And that's where these questions come from. When we stay in a neutral place, it is easy for us to respond and teach in a loving way. And when we get personally offended by children, a spouse, somebody in line, when we take it personal, then we tend to react, either overreact or react in a hurtful way that's not just not helpful. So that's the question. These are the two questions you would say. So think of an instance that kids didn't do something. So I'll start young. Let's start with a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old sibling, because that was on my podcast this week, or a couple weeks ago. We were talking about how these siblings have to share, right? So let's say the older child snatches the toy from the little child. Then you say, first of all, in conscious discipline, you always deal with the victim first, which would have been a 3-year-old. So if you're testing me for conscious discipline authenticity, that bit I'm just a little bit off on for this moment because I'm not teaching you that part. I just want to teach you the question that is helpful. So you would say to the older sibling who just snatched the toy, "Was that helpful or hurtful?" That's the first question. Was that helpful or hurtful? Right? Any teaching situation, any situation, even you could even use this with adults. Or, those teenagers that want to talk back to you and you want to tell them how it is, and right? Sometimes they just want to be heard. And every one of us has an answer inside. So you just say to them, was that helpful or hurtful? Right? They already know the answer. So if it's hurtful, then you say, and what could you do to be helpful? Or what could you have done to be helpful? So we'll stick with the little 5-year-old who snatched the toy. Was it helpful or hurtful? Hurtful. Hmm. And what could you do now that would be helpful? Give Sissy the toy back. They'll know. Sometimes they'll hide their face because they're embarrassed. And again, we have a choice to take it as disrespect or see that they're just trying to keep themselves safe. They're embarrassed. And you can say, I know, you were hoping to have the toy and nobody would notice that you took it. So what can you do to be helpful now? So that's it. 2 questions. Was it helpful or hurtful? And then how can you be helpful? Hmm. All right. So I don't know if you guys have your little noggins in bed. This is the first time I've just said, go to bed, guys. So one was just sneaking around the corner. I think she's getting a cup for water or something. Who knows? So the survey says that 9 o'clock at night is going to be a time when us moms have our kids in bed and we can just do a little, development, encouragement for each other. So we'll see how this goes this month. This is part of a campaign called the Happy Mother's Month, right? We just celebrated Mother's Day, and I thought to myself, I have one girlfriend, her birthday's in May, so the whole month is her celebration. And I thought, wow, more of us should live like that. And then I thought, all of our moms, we should have a Happy Mother's Month. So I am celebrating each one of you moms and the incredible work that you're doing by having a Happy Mother's Month. So I'm going to have webinars Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 2 p.m. I'm thinking maybe one of the little ones is down for a nap and you could just tune in for a few minutes, or maybe they haven't gotten off the bus yet, the older ones, who knows. That's why I was hoping 2 might be the right time, and then maybe 9 after the kids are in bed. You can have a nice refreshing drink and sit here and chat with me. So how do these 2 questions build empathy and build responsibility? Here's how. The empathy is, let's go back to the 5-year-old as the example. If the 5-year-old takes the toy from the 3-year-old and you say, you shouldn't do that, and that was hurtful, and we start the blame game and the power comes from above down onto the little one doesn't feel any power, and they're actually feeling like the victim of a bullying situation themselves. So I love it. Dr. Becky Bailey is the creator of conscious discipline. And I love how she frames things, how she says things. And this is what she always tells us. It's not what we're saying. It's whatever behaviors we're modeling is what the children will do. They're going to do what we do. So if we're saying, give that toy back, and we're being gruff and demanding, what is the child learning? The child is learning gruff and demanding. And God bless my children, that is how I was when they were little. When I had just the 2 girls, that's how I was. And you can hear those, and even funny things, okay, like library. I don't say library. I realized after the second kid was like, library. I won't go library. I'm like, it's not a library, it's a library. But how was I saying it? I was saying library. Let's go to the library. So all they ever heard was library, right? What I was doing is what they model, and I didn't even recognize that I said it that way until I heard it come back to me. I'm going to respectfully suggest some of you mamas don't realize how harsh you are until you watch your little one playing with a doll or talking to a dog, or maybe even talking to one of their little playmates or a sibling. And then you're like, ooh, do I sound like that? Yeah, mama, you probably do. I know I did. And it's one of the reasons I was so motivated to become a certified instructor. And it's a reason in this season now that I'm so motivated to reach out to you moms, especially the ones who yell, who hit, who are just mean, out of control, and they don't know how to stop it. I know that feeling. And that's what sent me on the path of recovery and getting help and learning these skills. And I'm just jazzed that I get to share this with any other mom. Because if you're the kind of mom who's yelling and hitting and screaming and using spatulas or wooden spoons, you probably have something inside of you that says, I really don't like this. And I'm embarrassed. And I can't tell anybody else about it. And I don't even know what to do. You're the kind of mom that I really want to reach out to. I know the shameful feeling it is on the other side of that when this monster comes out of you, right? And this is what we model for our children. This is how they learn to be gruff and mean and snatch and things like that. Anything I can do to put the brakes on and shift it and help you roll forward with something different, that's what I want to do. So the two questions, some altercation has just happened. And you said to the one who did the altercation, was it helpful or hurtful? Well, how could you be helpful? And if you think they're fibbing on you and they're like, oh, that was helpful, then you nail them. Oh, really? How was that helpful? I'm not saying do it vindictively. Let's use the compassion that we want them to have. Really, how is that helpful? Can you explain that to me? And then, blah, 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 blah. So this is the point about empathy. When they have to look at the other person's face and see it, this is where the empathy comes in. If you are just telling them, go give that toy back and do this, they don't learn from it. They just learn to, when somebody yells, let me placate. Let me just do what I need to do to be safe. But they don't learn a skill. When you say to them, was that helpful or hurtful? It draws their attention to the executive state of the brain up here, and they have to think. And they're like, let me look at the person's face. Let me see how it went afterwards. They learn intrinsically when they have hurt somebody. And then the second step is, what could you do to be helpful? That too is an executive state function. That's a problem-solving function. What could you do to be helpful? Their growing empathy only happens when they're functioning up here in the executive state of the brain. And that's when you attend one of our live trainings, we teach you all about the brain, the left, the right, the back of the brain, which is called the survival state, the emotional state, and the executive state. We tie it all together for you. But that only happens in live training. We don't do any recordings with that. So this is how it helps grow empathy. When you ask, was that helpful or hurtful? How could you be helpful? They have a sense of empathy. They start looking at other places in the world. How could I be helpful here? How could I be helpful here? You cannot overuse these sentences. You cannot. And what's really cool is to watch a kid walk away, and I don't mean prideful or arrogant, but I mean intact. In other words, the kid didn't walk away head down, tail tucked, embarrassed, shamed, guilted. I mean, I just want to tell people, get your feelings off my kid. Stop molesting my kid with your feelings. I feel so bad that you did this. I don't want my kid motivated by your feelings. I want my kid motivated by intrinsic, by what's inside their heart that they know is the right thing to do, is the helpful thing to do, is the kind thing to do. That's where I want them motivated. So, I look at it completely different than most of the world. And I thank God and I thank Becky Bailey for that, because I was going through this world at a very different pace and I would have had a very different family. All right. That's how it creates empathy, is the child gets to feel it inside and they get to problem solve from the inside. Gee, how can I help somebody out there? They see that they make a difference in the world and they are motivated from the inside to be helpful and kind to other people. Now, the second part that I told you is if you use these two questions, you would raise kids with empathy and responsibility. So when you say, was it helpful or hurtful? Who has the responsibility there? It's not me, the adult. I'm not saying to him, you give that toy back right now. I'm holding the responsibility for the situation when I demand my way. But if I say to the child, was that helpful or hurtful? Where did I put whose court did I put that ball in? I said, here, kid, look at this. What'd you do? What was the reaction? I am making them take responsibility. I'm not making them. You can't make anybody take responsibility. I'm giving them the opportunity to take responsibility for the situation. They're part of it. I don't want them over responsible either. Just their part. Was your behavior helpful or hurtful? Okay. So they're responsible in looking at what they did, right? What a huge skill. I mean, look at the scandals in government and churches and politics. Did the person even look realistically and honestly at what they did? Is what I just did helpful or hurtful, right? So what a skill you're giving to people, these little people. They're going to grow up and be big people, and they're going to have the skill to look at what they've done and think, was that helpful or hurtful? Hmm. And what can I do to be helpful? What can I do to be helpful? So again, you're not solving the problem for them. You're saying, sweetheart, I see that something happened. And how can you solve it? Right? You're giving them the opportunity to be responsible for their actions and responsible for the choices that they make. They get to choose the next step. And because they've tapped into empathy, and we're asking them, what can you do to be helpful? Siblings want to get along. In general, we want to be in a cohesive relationship with people. I don't think any one of us really wants to stir up anger. We may need attention, we may need protection, we may need something. At the end of the day, we want to feel connected, right? It's a human need to feel connected. Some of us don't know how to do that very well. And some of our little ones need help coaching. And some of our lovely teenagers need that too, right? Their brain goes back to that, gray matter state, and they have to rewire all those grooves. They've got to reconnect it. So I'm thankful for this stage because I didn't do well with my firstborn, and now she's entering that teenage stage. So we get to rewire some of that stuff. Like, I work with moms sometimes, they're like, oh, I think it's too late. It's never too late. It is never too late. Us babies want our mommies. I don't care what age, I don't care what's happened. I've seen it over and over and over. Moms who are horribly abusive, neglectful, abandoned, let abuse happen to their child. And that child, you know what, at the end of the day, what they really want? They want mommy, right? Your kid wants you. Your kid wants you. And when you can start being calm at a state of knowing instead of a state of forcing or a state of whining, but when you're at this state of knowing and you can put the responsibility for the child's actions on the child, hey buddy, was that helpful or hurtful? Right? My house after school is like the runaround. We have a boys' toys of closets with swords and costumes, and we have scooters, and we have girls with fingernail polish. I mean, my place is the in and out after school and weekends, Friday nights, movie night, and popcorn night around here. So you think with 6, 8, 9 kids, sometimes we have some altercations? We do. And I always say, was that helpful or hurtful? And they look and they're like, oh. And I say, okay, so what could you do that would be helpful? And they go right over and say they're sorry or share the toy or, offer them a snack too or whatever the little thing is. I've not really had to correct any of the kids that come in and out of the house. They know the routine. They know the routine in my house. And when somebody doesn't like something, I say, well, was it helpful or hurtful? What could you do to be helpful right now? So I'm also helping our neighbor kids develop empathy and responsibility. And one of the moms, she's a teacher, and she's like, how do you do that? She doesn't know what I do for a living because I'm just the next door neighbor mom, So, all right, you're welcome to email me any questions, Nancy@beanicemom.com, Nancy@beanicemom.com. I'll be happy to answer your questions, or you can find my Facebook page. It's under my business name, A New Way with Conscious Discipline. But if you want to email me, I'll get you the Facebook link. And I'm also having a buy one, get one free on my Be a Nice Mom 101 course. Be a Nice Mom 101 is about transforming anger. I know moms who are hurtful are usually angry, and they have really valid reasons to be angry. Unfortunately, when I was an angry mom, I didn't know these things. It took me many years to discover what was the root of my anger and how could I, make it go away. I mean, I begged, how can I make it go away? So I've given you Be a Nice Mom 101, how to transform anger for good or too good for good in 21 days or less. How to transform anger too good for good in 21 days or less. It sells for $197, but whoever purchases the course, I'm going to send you a coupon, just a little code just for you, and you get to give that to somebody else for 100% free entry into the Be Nice Be a Nice Mom 101 course. And that will allow them to take the course with you so you guys can compare notes and be accountable and stay up to each other day by day. It could give your spouse entry so that he or she is learning the same thing at the same time, which could be really helpful. I always enjoy, and there are assignments in there where you debrief with people. There's painting and journaling. I try to be creative about it because I think we just grow better that way. So that's my real push for Happy Mother's Month, is that when we can shed that anger, when we can get down to the root of it and get it out of there, oh, and learn a few skills along the way, that we can go be different women in the world. We can just be safer, calmer, and more joyful for the whole family. Well, it's been my pleasure to talk with you tonight. Again, I'm Nancy Lucas, the Safe and Calm Mommy Mentor and a Conscious Discipline Certified Instructor in Florida. Now, if you haven't heard of Conscious Discipline, please, please, please go to consciousdiscipline.com, consciousdiscipline.com. Conscious Discipline is a comprehensive social, emotional, and classroom management program using everyday life events to teach children and adults self-regulation, conflict resolution, character development, and social skills. If we can learn these now and teach our little ones, how much better is the world going to be? Have kids out there who are empathetic and responsible. Blessings.